In this tutorial, I'm sharing one of my favorite directing techniques. The walking or running shot is a directing technique I use to add life to an otherwise static portrait. It's really handy when I'm working with people who are like a bit awkward or in front of the camera, and it's a fantastic way to bring life, energy, and authenticity to group shots. I like to shoot my walking or running shot from a low angle. The low angle makes my subject look heroic, and I use a long lens because it gives a narrow field of view, which increases the amount of potential locations. So you can see in these examples, I had fences and barricades and trash cans and people either side of my frame, but shooting a narrow angle cuts out all these details from the frame. So you can notice the difference when if I use say a wide lens, 24 millimeters, you can see that it picks up all the background. So all the guff either side of my subject is going to be visible in the frame. But when I use a longer lens, say something 100 millimeters to 200 millimeters, it eliminates all that distraction either side of the frame. Now, the way I focus these images is using autofocus, and most cameras today have a autofocus mode that's known as continuous for Nikon, Sony, Fuji, and many other cameras. And for some reason, Canon likes to call it AI servo. But that basically means continuous focus. So what happens is when you're shooting in continuous, the camera's autofocus system, you actually set the point where you want to focus. So you're telling the camera, hey, this is where I want you to focus, and I want you to keep focusing on that spot as the subject is moving to the camera, towards the camera, or away from the camera, or even in front of the camera across the frame. It will continue to update the focus, and most cameras do a fantastic job at keeping the image in focus. So all you need to do is switch over to that continuous mode, AI servo in Canon, and just have a look at your manual. For some cameras, it's as simple as switching on a switch, and you can, like by default, your autofocus mode will be set to single. And so single focus is when you've got a static image. So you've got a model that's just standing there or and not moving, you would use single focus. And if your subject is going to be moving around, walking towards you, like in this shot, you're going to choose continuous focus. There's also another focus mode called autofocus, and that's basically a hybrid. It's like a combination of single and continuous focus, but the camera decides for you. So it decides if, are you tracking something that's moving or static? And it's not something that I can't think of a situation where I would use it. So for the purpose of this example today, stick to continuous focus mode and use that and pick a focus point. Now, the easiest way to do it is to start with a narrower depth of field. So you want something maybe 5.6, f8. Crank up your shutter speed, shooting with daylight. So like a nice fast shutter speed. And what I do is, because I've got that narrower depth of field, it means that there's a little bit more play. You've got a little bit more space behind and in front of the camera, so that it's a little bit easier to track the focus, rather than if you were shooting wide open, you've got like a very small window where the image is in focus as opposed to being out of focus. So just to cover yourself while you're learning this, I recommend that, say, start shooting at f5.6 to f8, say 1/200th of a second, and whatever ISO fits within those parameters. Set the camera to continuous focus, and I place the focus point somewhere easy, because often with the focus points you won't be able to place it on the face of the model, because the focus points don't extend beyond the center of the frame. So I actually like to find an area that's nicely lit and high contrast, so I've got a really good large area for the camera to lock onto focus. So in this image of George walking towards the camera and walking away to the camera, I've actually set the focus point on his body, and that's generally where I place it when I'm doing a shot like this, and then I allow the camera to do its magic and continue to track the focus as I go along. So that's basically it. What I recommend is you test it out with, if you've got a dog, throw the ball away from you and then track the dog running away and then running back towards you. Or you might want to go to a park where there are people jogging towards you. Just set up your camera, pretend you're filming, and just take some shots of people that are running towards you. Or if you've got kids, just get them to run up and down in the house or in the backyard, or take them to a park, and just get comfortable with this technique, and you'll find that it is so handy. And I want you to check out the difference between a static shot here and then just getting him to do that walking towards camera as a still shot. Look how much more life that's brought to the image. It's really given it a whole new level just by getting him to take a few steps forward and walk towards camera and walk back. So I want to show you another version, and this time it's a running shot, again lit with daylight. I don't like to complicate this, but I want to show you what a difference this makes to the overall shoot when you've got flowing fabrics and hair, and how you can transform something that could be quite static and flat to something that has a bit more life and authenticity. All right, so what we've got to be careful of here is I've got it's a very bright background, brightly lit scene. We've got white, the light coloured sand, the sun is bouncing off the sand, off the sky. It's bright. So when I meter for this, it's always going to give me a meter reading that's going to be underexposed, because the camera is going to be trying to get back to neutral. So when I try and meter this, and I'm metering off Annalise's skin tone at this distance, she's tiny in the frame, the camera is telling me that at 400 ISO, if I want to shoot at f5.6, I should be at 1600 of a second, and if I do that, it's actually her skin tone is too dark. So what I need to do is open up and make sure that I'm overexposing by about a stop. That's going to give me the correct skin tone. So if I go to 800th of a second, it's going to give me a much nicer skin tone for Annalise. Now what I'm doing for this is I'm going to have her walking towards me, turning around and then walking away, and I'm going to track her. So to do that, I have changed my autofocus from single shot to AF servo, which is a continuous focus. The camera's autofocus system locks onto Annalise and continually tracks her as she's moving, so it's always refocusing as she goes. So that's why I can lock onto her, and the focus will follow her as she walks towards me, and then she turns around and walks away. This is really good, this technique, if you've got someone who is maybe a little bit uncomfortable in front of the camera, they're not used to being in front of the camera. Just getting them to walk away and walk back to you, you will at some stage get a natural looking shot. So I just get them to repeat it, back, forth, back, forth. I'm shooting on the long lens at 200 at f5.6, 1/1600th of a second. It's going to freeze all the action, you get the hair bouncing around, and it makes a nice shot. So, all right, start walking towards me. So she's got her running, everything's bouncing around. You've got the joy, and then she's looking over her shoulder, a little bit cheeky. That's great. Beautiful. And come back. All right, and she can't, and it's really lovely and a natural looking shot. Everything doesn't have to be posed. It's quite joyous, and I love the looking back as well. That's cute. You know, and you're going to get like a lot of life in the shot. And so I've just directed her to just repeat those for me. Go and come around, go back. That's it. And you can have fun with it. All right, again, I'm shooting horizontally. I've got Annalise 1/3 of the way into the frame, and I'm just shooting that, keeping the action going, keeping it light. We'll do another pass, running. Now you're not going to get every frame, but you're going to get a few that are beautiful, and it's really lifestyle-y and fun, and they're having fun too. All right, and bring her back. And this works for guys and girls.